Hello boys and girls. In today's lesson we're going to work on character development. The essential question we want to think about during this lesson and we want to be able to answer at the end is, how does analyzing a character's growth or change help us as readers? I would like you to think about your favorite Disney movies and all of the Disney protagonists. I want you to think about one thing that all of those protagonists have in common. Can you think of it? Well, it's the fact that they have all changed throughout the story. And we're going to take a quick look at some ways how. Those are some examples of some Disney characters who have changed throughout the story. If you look at Pinocchio, he started one way, and a character trait would be that he lied, and he was a liar. He learned his lesson throughout the story, and at the end he became an honest character, and he also became human. Besides Disney characters, real people change too, and here are some examples. Here we see some of our fellow classmates when they were younger, and today if you look at them now, they look much different, and I'm sure that they are also different and have different their personalities have changed a little bit also. Here we have some more classmates. Can you see how they change? And here is somebody else from the class that has changed a lot. Here is me when I was a baby. And as you can see, I look much different now than I did then, but I also am a much different person now than I was when I was a child. Everything changes over time. Here you can see how the phone has changed, and computers, cars, radios, including characters and stories. They change too. And here are some of the stories we've read this year, a couple from last year. And if you think about these characters in each of these books, they have changed tremendously throughout the story. We're going to focus on learning how characters change. And we do that by focusing on how they are at the beginning and looking and comparing that to how they act at the end. And then in the middle is usually where you see the events that make the character change. So let's see. In the beginning of the story, the reader learns the character's strengths and weaknesses. In the middle, the events occur that affect the character and make them think about life differently. And then at the end, that's where you usually find the character's growth. Now, most stories contain a lesson that the main characters learn and grow from. Characters often change, grow, and learn lessons as a result of events and conflicts within a story. Now think about your favorite characters from a movie or a book you have read, and think about their thoughts and actions. These really let the reader realize how the characters have changed throughout the story. An example would be Gru from Despicable Me. He's a great example. In the beginning of the story, he does not really want children, and he only adopts the girls to use them in his plan as a villain. But lessons throughout the story start to affect him, and he finds that he actually loves the girls and wants them to stay. So he has a big change in him. As we focus on how a character changes throughout a story, you can think about the plot, because they usually go very hand in hand. If we look at the beginning of the story, we're going to look to figure out some character traits of this main character. So we're going to learn about their strengths and weaknesses by what the character says, what the character thinks, and what the character does. Then we're going to look at the events that occur and cause the main character to think about life differently. That usually is throughout the book, especially in the middle. And finally, at the end, we're going to again look at the character, what they say, what they think, and what they do, and we're going to think about the character traits the character has at the end. And then we're going to compare what the character was like in the beginning to what the character was like at the end, and that's where we're going to see the change. So again, pay attention as you're figuring out how does the character change. Pay attention to the beginning, middle, and end, and the cause and effect problem. Pay attention to the solution, and the thoughts, actions, and feelings of the character. All of this will help you see the characters change. We're going to try it together. Let's think about Ralph and the story Ralph Tells a Story. And here I filled out a graphic organizer to help get my thoughts down on a piece of paper. When I was thinking about Ralph, I thought about how he acted in the beginning. And I said Ralph is not confident and he's doubtful of his abilities to write a story in the beginning. And I know that this is true because I looked at what he said and thought. And he says in the story, every day at writing time, he thought really hard, but he couldn't think of a story. And he also thought to himself, I'll never be a good writer like Daisy. So he didn't think he was a good writer, and he didn't know what to do. Then I looked at how he acted at the end of the story. And I saw that Ralph was very different. At the end, he was confident and he was proud of himself. And I knew this because in the text, it said that Ralph showed his picture because he wasn't embarrassed anymore. And it also said that this year, he writes stories all the time, which is a big difference from in the beginning, when he wouldn't write any stories. So looking at just comparing those two, the beginning and the end, I see that Ralph changed because in the beginning, he didn't believe in himself and thought he was a bad writer and wouldn't write. And at the end, he did believe in himself and he wrote all the time. There I see the two character traits from the beginning and the end. Now I want to think about, why did he change? What happened that made that change? And I saw that Ralph changed because in the climax of the story, the teacher made him get up in front of the class and tell a story that he was writing. And everyone, at first he didn't know what to do, but then everyone started to ask him questions. And the questions made him remember what happened. And then he was able to tell an exciting story. Everyone clapped, and this made him realize that stories are everywhere, and he is a good storyteller. So here is an example of how a character changes that I did. Now it's your turn. I want you to pause this video and just quickly jot down a character from a book you've read and how they've changed. It could be really quick. You could say, in the story Horton Hears a Who, in the beginning of the story he was this way, and at the end of the story he was this way. It's just really quick. We just want to get our thoughts down. Okay, write them on your paper and we'll share them tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to work on a lot of activities to help us really practice this skill. But I want you to remember, as you are reading, pay attention to how the character acts, and think about how the character changes throughout the story. This will help you gain a better understanding of the character, the problem, and the theme.